I had two beliefs that conflicted with one another. One is to obey the law. The second one is that we believe in trying to find all of the good in the world. If there's anything virtuous, lovely, pure, chaste, or of good report, we seek after these things. Psychedelic mushrooms, for example. I decided to try it. Decided to give it a shot and see what kind of benefits they had, and I found they helped with a wide range of things. And once I invited Jesus into my journeys with me, that's when things really changed and just a whole new world opened up.
All right. Hi, guys. Today I am going to have a discussion with Perrin Gerber. And this one's going to be a little bit different and maybe a little controversial because today we're going to talk about plant medicine or psychedelics. Welcome, Perrin.
Thank you.
So, a little bit about Perrin. He is an active member of the Church Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and you graduated from BYU with a
Correct?
degree in food science, right?
Yep,
Okay. And you've even developed your own I guess, alternative to an energy drink,
that
healthier
is correct.
alternative. What's the benefit of your product?
So benefit of my product is it's not caffeine. So I was frankly a caffeine addict after working at my last job, and I came across an ingredient that was not as addictive in terms of its stimulant, but also gave you the same boost as caffeine. And so I was like, well, there's nothing on the market that has this that does what I want it to do. So I'm just going to make it. And, worst comes to worst, I just have a lot of energy drinks to drink.
Great. Yeah, well, I got to try a sample and it tasted pretty good, so it's a good
Cool.
product.
Awesome.
Astrodust. All right.
Astrodust. Yeah. With
Well,
an ASTRADUST.com.
I from what I hear, like I have not done psychedelics as a disclaimer, so I don't have any experience, but that's why we brought Perrin on. And from what I hear, I don't know, caffeine might be even more addictive than
True.
than psychedelics. Yeah. So let's talk about the controversy surrounding psychedelics. I mean,
Yeah.
growing up, we get the message, drugs bad, right? You get
Right.
that at school, you get it at church. We have the word of wisdom, and we've kind of rolled in with that. Don't do drugs.
All illicit drugs, right?
All illicit drugs, right?
Yeah. So it, it, when I came across psychedelics and was first introduced to them, I was kind of put in this situation where I was like, well, they're illegal, but people are saying that they have benefits, that they have good things. And so I had two beliefs that conflicted with one another that I've grown up with my entire life, which which are given to us in the articles of faith. One is to obey the law, right? We believe in being subject to kings, priests, yada yada, and obeying, honoring, and sustaining the law. Okay, that's the first belief. The second one is that we believe in um, you know trying to find all of the good in the world, right? So, and I think that's Article Faith 13. If there's anything virtuous, lovely, pure, chaste, or of good report, we seek after these things. So when I heard that this illegal thing was allegedly of good report, um, that was, you know, I've got two conflicting beliefs here that were given to me by the church, and had to pray about it, and kind of follow follow the guidance that I had, right?
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, as I dug into the word of wisdom, you know, what is the word of wisdom? Why do we have the word of wisdom? Um, a lot of the time, what we hear in the church is that it's does not, your body's a temple. So treat it as a temple. You don't want to be dependent on any substance. Um, and so, a lot of the stuff that's in the word of wisdom is addictive stuff. So you got your coffee, you got your tea, tobacco, alcohol. These are all addictive substances. And what the word of wisdom to me is teaching us is don't be dependent on a substance. And I think that that can also apply to psychedelics. The hard part is it's really hard to be dependent on a psychedelic. And so what happened back in the 60s is um, we had the law come in, which banned all drugs, and so psychedelics as a class got lumped in with the other addictive drugs. And so I'll distinguish between what I'll call addictive drugs. Those are the ones that act on your dopamine reward system. That's your classic get a spike, get a high, and then you crash and you need some more to even just get back to baseline. Right? That's what I was
Yeah.
taught in school was the addiction cycle. Um, Psychedelics, on the other hand, work with your serotonin receptors, and you don't have that same spike, get a high, and then you have to get back to baseline with like you do with, say, cocaine or methamphetamine, or any of those dopaminergic drugs.
Hmm.
And so as I thought about it, studied it, I was like, well, technically, the word of wisdom as it was given doesn't prohibit psychedelic mushrooms, for example.
Right.
Um, so I decided to try it. Decided to give it a shot and see what kind of benefits they had, and I found they helped with a wide range of things, um, and happens to find out that you can learn a lot about the scriptures through psychedelics.
Really?
Yeah, uh, you know, my for some reason, and I don't know why this is, but my journeys, I would always have these scriptures just pop into my head. And so I started to bring scriptures to my journeys. Um, and, you know, oftentimes my journeys have brought me into the scriptures so I can be taught. And once I invited Jesus into my journeys with me, that's when things really changed and just a whole new world opened up.
That's neat. Um, well, I was like, why do you think that like psychedelics were made illegal? I mean, they're defined as a Schedule One drug, but they
Yeah.
don't meet the definition. Like by definition, they should have no therapeutic benefit, and that is not what we're finding in the research that's being done, the official research
Yeah.
that's being done.
Yeah. So I'll give you two possibilities. There's the conspiracy theory possibility that a lot of people believe, which is, um, you know, if you look at the medical industry and big pharma, they have essentially been trying to copy psychedelics for decades.
Oh gosh.
All of your antidepressants um, work by, act either it's a SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. All of your SSRIs are playing on that serotonin receptor, which is the exact same receptor that psychedelics are using.
Mm.
And so what they've been trying to do is create a psychedelic that doesn't give you hallucinations and the whole trip sensation, doesn't get you high. Um, so that's you know if you want to talk about it from a conspiracy theory standpoint, there's
Oh.
that avenue that you can go down. I don't know much about the history of you know, maybe potential scientists who encountered big pharma blocking it or any of that.
Yeah, and what
Um,
they say you can't patent nature.
right, right.
So they
Yes,
restrict our access to nature. Well, maybe that's the motivation. Um,
maybe. So, and that again, that's so we'll, we'll call that like the negative side. Like here's worst case scenario is there's a group of people that are blocking us from having access to this um, great medicine. Okay.
Yeah.
And they don't want us to have it because um, they don't actually want us to heal. They want us to be addicted to their pharmaceutical drugs. Okay.
Right,
I,
because I
you
mean
know,
that was one in doing the research, that was one of the medical benefits that the studies have found, that they can help even with addiction and substance abuse.
yeah, addiction, substance abuse. If anybody's familiar with Joe Rogan recently, um, was working with President Trump to take a look at psychedelics as a whole because ibogaine, specifically, is one of the only drugs that actually is able to get people off of opiates
Mm.
completely. Like it's a cure for opioid addiction.
Well, there's a clue. You go to the doctor and they'll drug you and maybe get you really high with some things they give you, and they started an opioid crisis,
Yeah.
and psychedelics can help you overcome that.
Yeah, well, and what are they selling you after the opioid crisis is another opioid that at least doesn't hurt you, right?
Mm.
So I have a cousin who was addicted to opioids for a long time, and he still has to take, I think it's naloxone or something. There's a specific treatment for people to come off of opioids, but you're still taking another drug.
Yeah.
So,
Another drug
um,
that you like, do you depend on it?
yeah,
Like you have to keep
yeah,
taking?
you still have to keep
Just
taking it.
take your pills for the rest of your life kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a great recurring subscription revenue model
Yeah.
from
Oh
a business
gosh.
standpoint.
Yeah. And then the psychedelics are also treating depression and PTSD, and
Depression,
or you
anxiety,
could take a
PTSD.
pharmaceutical and for the rest of your life to
Right.
be
Well, and
helped.
and the pharmaceuticals, even your SSRIs, um, they're 51% effective,
Yeah.
maybe. Like
Maybe.
the
Yeah.
the benefit that people actually get from them is not great. And when people, I had a coworker whose his mom's his wife's mom passed away, and she just sank into this depression and got on SSRIs and became a shell of a person
Oh
compared to who
gosh.
she was, because she couldn't handle, the loss of her mother. And psychedelics is something that could help her with a single session potentially.
Because the psychedelics actually help you process it, like from like base level, like get to the root of the problem,
Right.
and
Exactly.
deal with and process your emotions.
Exactly.
Well, if you want to get into like maybe more conspiracy theory, I was looking into the hippie movement, the hippie culture. Of course, we know they were using a lot of psychedelics then. And I was reading like they were anti-establishment,
Mhm.
anti-war, the rejection of conformity and consumerism. And we're all about expanded consciousness and spirituality. And I'm looking at that, I'm like, I am becoming a hippie. As
Yeah.
I have, cause like I haven't done psychedelics, but as I've gone within and connected with God and been able to work with Him and do the spiritual work inside, I'm finding it's from my research, it's so similar to what people are doing on psychedelics.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and this is where, I mean, I would love to be able to do that same work that you're doing without a substance. That would be fantastic. I haven't gotten there yet, but I am told that you can reach these, we'll call them altered states of consciousness, through meditation. And I just, something I have to work at. Um, I I will call the psychedelics the permission slips.
Yeah. I mean, and that is what God told me. He was like, when I started to allow myself to be open to the idea of psychedelics, he was like, "Well, Laura, let me weigh in on this." He's like, "I have created substances on earth to allow man to access me, to come closer to me." And he's like, well, like, but use responsibly. Don't become like overly I don't know if dependent is the right word for it, but to rely on it too much, when we do
Yeah,
have this like natural connection to God within. But he's like, but I gave it to man, and we find it everywhere across cultures, across times. For thousands of years, it has been a cultural tradition in so many places on earth to use various forms of psychedelics in spiritual rituals because it causes you to connect with your divinity within and you learn so much from the experience.
yeah. I would say for, when we talk about being dependent on certain substances, that's probably where you could say you can get addicted to psychedelics is you get addicted to the insights and the growth that you experience when
What
you
a
use them.
terrible thing.
I know, I know.
Well, sometimes I feel like I'm addicted to connecting in with my spiritual gifts because I'm just like, I'm feeling stressed. I'm gonna go just chill out and meditate and connect with God and talk to him and process I
Yeah,
don't know. I think that's just healthy habits. I don't know if that's
right.
addiction. But maybe if
Sure.
nothing is getting done in my house, maybe that's a problem. But
Right, right. Exactly.
I would love for you to talk about some of the experiences that you have had on psychedelics and how it has helped you.
Um, Man, there's a number of different experiences that I've had, but maybe I'll just share some of the one or two of the more meaningful experiences that I've had. Um, Psychedelics, each different type of psychedelic kind of works in a different way. Um, but when I was using mushrooms, one of my journeys was centering around, and I said how much journeys changed when I brought Christ into it with me. I said, how can I be a more Christ-like leader? And when I asked, set that intention, um, the journeys will often just reflect things to you and show you something about yourself.
Hmm.
And so throughout that entire journey, I was asking people like, hey, why don't you do something? Why don't you go do this? Why don't you go say this? Go blah, blah, blah. Uh, and, it's not until after the journey that you realize what you were being taught, which was that I wasn't the one that was going and doing the stuff. I wasn't saying anything.
You
And
got a reflection back.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that is something that I have experienced so much in the spirit once talking to God and my angel and my angelic guides. I got a reflection back. It's like, this is you. These are your belief systems, but you don't know that's what they're doing when they're doing
Right.
it. They're giving yourself back to you so that you can see what your belief systems are. And it helped me correct my false belief systems because after a while, it was I'd get so stressed out. I'd be like, this can't be right. Then it's like, bingo, it's not. Set boundaries and correct your belief. And they continue to do this, reflect back my belief systems. And I've grown so much in my understanding, in my boundaries, in my self-love because of it. But it confuses people because it's reverse psychology, and you think, well, they shouldn't behave this way. It's incredibly effective to receive a reflection back.
Yes. Um, I would say one of the other applications that is probably underappreciated, maybe not even talked about hardly at all, but I think you give this 5 or 10 years. Um, I think MDA or MDMA, those two substances will be used in marriage counseling. Um, what those two substances do is they put you into this state of just compassion and love for yourself and for others, so that if you receive a criticism, a lot of people their instinct when they get criticized is to get defensive and start attacking, like, well, you don't do the dishes enough, well, you don't do the dishes enough. Well, neither one of them is just taking that in and hearing that feedback and saying, I can do better at doing the dishes. They're focused on what the other person isn't doing rather than what what more they can do. Um, so I think marital counseling, like I've my wife and I, we did marriage counseling through the church two or three different times before we had done psychedelics, and actually leading up to psychedelics. Um, you know, we knew we were struggling, and we're like, well, let's just make sure that we've exhausted the church avenue before we step into this, illicit drug area. um, that was what we got introduced to psychedelics. That's how I first tried it. Was specifically for my marriage, and it helped rekindle things. It helped us get back to like go back to why we got married and see each other through those eyes again. Um, and then it gave us a vision. Hey, here's what your marriage could be like if you guys are willing to work at it, right? And so, um, nothing in your marriage is going to change overnight, but if you're willing to make changes in yourself and how you show up in the marriage, then your marriage can change.
Right.
So that's another one that I would say was super super meaningful. And then the third one that I think is very extremely powerful was ayahuasca. I went down to Costa Rica and um, did I think four nights of ayahuasca.
Mm.
And I would say for me, ayahuasca has been the most transformative of the psychedelics I've tried. Um, Ayahuasca helped me identify what the belief was that was driving me at the time. That you set your intention, and they actually give you some intentions to use down there. And the first one is show me who I've become. And so you have a night. I had a night where I was shown who I'd become. Actually, the first night, um, it was interesting. Not a whole lot happened during the night, but the next day I was just in a fog, just
Mm.
completely foggy the entire next day. It felt like I had a concussion.
Mm.
And so the first night, they have you go and throw anything that doesn't serve you into a fire, and they call that the fire like the grandfather fire or something like that.
Is that a
Um,
visualization like you're imagining?
there was an actual fire.
Were you writing
It,
things down? And
no, I didn't write it down. I just was talking to myself, like setting the intentions. Um, and the thing that I had thrown into the fire was an identity.
mm.
This something that I had identified with my whole life, which was that I'm not, you know, I'm not good enough.
Mm.
And I had always looked at that as a source of motivation, like I'm the underdog, right? Um, but what I realized is that by identifying with that, um, I was constantly like trying to prove myself,
Yeah.
and that was hurting my relationships in my family because I would work too much, um, and not spend enough time with the family. Um, I had had a number of experiences in my life where, I was just didn't quite cut it, right?
Mm.
Talking about sports and, you don't make the team, or whether it's a job and um, you don't get the position that you were hoping for, or the promotion, or whatever. It just felt like there were repeated times in my life where it was just not good enough, and I just had to try harder. And that was the answer: is just, you know, do more, try harder, right?
Right.
Because that's what I grew up with as an athlete: is you just have to, hey, if you lose this time, just get better, and you know, next time you'll win, right?
Push harder. Yeah.
And so anyway, I saw how that was a false belief of mine. Um, and so I, over the course of 9 months, um, shifted from that. There's two kind of underlying beliefs, I'll say, in that statement. I'm not good enough. The first one is that I'm not good.
Mm,
Okay. And so another journey into that, I had, you know, they talk about what you're purging. Um, you'll throw up and you kind of ask, all right, what is this? What is this that I'm throwing up?
yeah.
And so the answer just kind of downloads to you. I don't really know how to explain it, but one of the things that I threw up was guilt. And the guide was like, well, is it guilt or is it shame? Guilt is I did a bad thing. Shame is I'm a bad person.
Right.
And so to have this, I'm not good enough, be able to break that up into two different statements. I'm not good. I'm not enough.
Oh,
And understand, you know, I had a great deal of shame that I had held on to during my life. And when my guide was like, what you got to do is you got to give your guilt a name. And so I gave guilt a name and just talk to your guilt next time you're in the gym and just talk with it. And I was pretty sure it was guilt. But as I'm talking to guilt, I named guilt Gary because he's like the snail from SpongeBob.
okay.
And guilt said, well, are you sure that it's not shame? And I'm like, okay, all right. Well, if shame has a name, what name does it have? And for me, I had two names that came up to me, and this is like an interesting just coincidence. I don't know if it's coincidence, synchronicity, maybe you call it.
Mm,
Um, the two names were Shayna, which is my wife's name, and Shane at the time was my boss.
right.
And they were both born on December 5th. They shared the same birthday.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, I don't know what that means, but that's kind of weird.
Synchronistic. Yeah.
Yeah, like their names are both the same. So, you know, as that kind of dawned on me, um, you know, in the arguments with my wife, for example, if we were ever fighting, I would feel some shame and I would withdraw.
Yeah.
And my boss, you know, often would be like, just the tone was just like, this isn't good enough. We got to do more, got to get more done.
Yeah.
Um, and as I kind of like, I was like, crap, what do I do? Like, you know, my boss and my wife are like, they're my shame. They're the sources of my shame. This is why it's so important to have a guide
Yeah.
to help you coach you through these things. Because I was like, does this mean I have to like leave my wife? Does this mean I have to quit my job? Like what does this even mean? And at this time, as I had just kind of let that sink in, I had some other you call it life coaching, where I was just taught like, hey, just give yourself some time to feel whatever it is that you're feeling. And so I had to feel all of the shame that I had held on to and just, bawled my eyes out. And because I just let it sink in, like I thought I was a bad person for everything that I had done. And once I had felt that, I had this let's call it a wash a wave of relief wash over me,
Yeah.
and I had finally released that shame, and that I think that identity went with it. Um, it was like I need a new source of motivation if I'm not good enough isn't what's going to motivate me. What's going to motivate me? Um, and then that night, I was going to a breathwork class, and the theme was connecting with your true authentic self.
Yeah.
And So as I was meditating on that, my true authentic, I am, what's my identity, my motivation, what's the correct answer? I am a child of God.
Mm.
And so that divine truth and identity um, finally sank in. Whereas before I didn't identify it, I always knew it, right? Intellectually, I knew it, um, but I didn't identify with it as much
Yeah.
as I should have.
There's different kinds of knowing. There's the knowing inside your brain intellectually, and then there's like a internal knowing, and that's the one that's most profound, and that really that comes through experience rather than just hypothetical knowledge. But the
Yep.
things that you're describing are so in alignment with the type of experiences that I've had in the spirit and how much help that I received in processing my emotions and my guilt and my shame and my shadows, the things that I was ashamed to admit to myself that I would just keep compartmentalized and hidden and sort of buried. So that's very fascinating. Would you be willing to share the experience that you had when like you and Christ and him being your reflection?
I just so during one of my journeys, this is one of the more impactful ones for me. This time was LSD. Um, but I was just uh, my whole journey, I guess, life journey for the last couple of years has been like I want to meet God, want to meet Christ face to face. Um, and so that's been where what I've been trying to do, and I think I know what the next steps are on that path. I've met a number of people at this point who have all said, "Yeah, you can do it." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right." I just keep going, keep working at this. Um, but while I was, you know, in this journey, it was, um, it kind of dawned on me that we're all kind of Christ's hands, his feet. We are the body of Christ, right? Um, and as I had, as I've gone through this, this personal transformation, um, and have become a more compassionate person, um, I just had the words in my head as I was walking up to the mirror. It was just, "Have you met my friend?"
Hmm.
And he showed me who I'd become through this whole process of seeking him. Um, and it was just a deeply personal experience for me. And I'll call it when when you feel the spirit, like we can call that sort of a hug.
Hmm.
Um, when you connect with him through the spirit and you can just feel his love for you. I, I just felt like I was given a hug in that moment. It's very
Yeah.
special.
And I mean, when you described it to me, I remember you saying, like, when you looked in the mirror, you saw Christ looking back at you. Is that right?
Not like actually him, but um, I saw myself, but um, I just saw who I had become.
Hmm.
So, and I had become more like him, and that was, you know, that that's what I needed at that time.
That's wonderful. Another story I wanted to bring up, um, one of the guys we mutually met at Zion's camp. I can't remember his name, but he was in the car with us where he is talking about how his wife left him and he was in a terrible state of depression. And he took mushrooms when he was very depressed and he was suicidal. over
mm,
his suffering. And when he took the mushrooms, the experience that he had was that every breath that he took, he had profound gratitude for.
mm.
And I thought that was a very profound message because, the breath represents life. And so
Yeah.
with every breath, he has gratitude for his life. And I thought that that was a wonderful example of how doing these substances, it's not just random chaos. Like you are being given the things that you need. You're being guided through an experience. A lot of people describe, feeling like there's a presence there, like a divine presence, a guide within you that's helping you and assisting you through the experience. Has that been your experience as well, like feeling a divine presence?
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, I don't necessarily remember all of the conversations from the retreat, um, but you bring up the whole idea of connecting with the breath. Breath work, I think, is an incredible tool for people. Um, and I have kind of like made this connection that breath actually is the word for spirit in Hebrew actually means breath.
Hmm.
And so when we do breath work, I think of it as spiritual exercise.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes, you're exercising your physical body, you're breathing hard. You could call that some um, spiritual exercise as well. But if you're really focused on just the spiritual side, highly recommend breath work.
Yeah, that makes sense. I need to do more of it. I've done a little bit,
Yeah, I
but it
do
really
too.
does help. The controlling the breath really does help um, control the emotions.
Yes.
I guess the other thought that I had was a lot of people report experiencing a loss of self
Mm,
um, and and a feeling of oneness. And I know we've talked about this a little bit that you're looking forward to having that experience of feeling like you're one with everything. And that's
yeah.
something that I had heard of and I had prayed for and I had finally received one morning I woke up and I was totally in my knowing that I was one with everything. It was it was a very cool experience. But a lot of people report experiencing that, and I think it's because the psychedelics they're thinning the veil. They're allowing you to access what's within that truth inside of you, that you are divine. You are the one. You are the all, the great I am. You are, you know, Christ is your reflection. He is you, and you are Him.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess no wonder the powers that be want to restrict us from that. But
Right. Yeah. I will just like throw in a caveat. I didn't ever get to the benevolent explanation for why these are illegal. Um, I could see a possible just they're afraid
yeah,
of people using some of these substances that make you hallucinate because like you can do some crazy stuff if you're not supervised. As I was saying, just make sure you're using a guide. Have a professional that you can ask questions to, because things come up that oftentimes you don't know how to handle. Um, and you can be tempted to do some crazy stuff. So again, just make sure you're doing it in a safe setting. I don't recommend a clinical setting. I do think it's better in an outdoors type environment. The setting is very important when you're doing this kind of stuff.
okay. Well, thank you, Perrin. I really enjoyed this conversation. This was very illuminating. I really appreciate you sharing your personal experiences with us. It was very moving, and thanks so
Yeah,
much for coming on.
yeah, no problem. I hope somebody in your audience finds it helpful or insightful for them.
Yeah, I bet they will. All right, take care.
Yep,
It's
you
good.
too.
All right, okay, bye-bye.
Bye.